So Nintendo decided to release the patch notes for this upcoming chill season that's starting soon, so we're going to briefly go over every single major change related to multiplayer, along with a few of my overall thoughts at the end. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more from me, be sure to like and subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and let's just jump right in. Tandem missiles finally received a nerf against letting them continue to be charged even after you pop them, which was extremely prevalent in Splatoon 2 and carried over into the start of Splatoon 3. Now you have to wait for missiles to fully land before charging them up again, which is a direct blow to missile spamming that they even mention further, saying that they want to reduce the frequency of this playstyle. If your role is just to spam missiles the entire game, you actually have to think more about doing so, while this isn't a massive change, it's definitely a step in the right direction. Tri-Stringer and Splatoon Wiper were the only main weapons to receive any buffs, and both received an increase in paint output, which will help them get their specials faster. This is a nice step forward for Stringer to have a better time competing against other backlines that tend to overshadow it competitively, because paint has definitely been the main thing holding it back since day one. For Wiper, because the horizontal slashes will actually make a solid trail in front of you, it'll have much faster mobility than it already does for taking fights or escaping from them. Movement is huge in this game competitively, so this is no doubt the best buff out of everything in this patch, and Wiper will now have a better time against other weapon classes, so hopefully we can now see it have more use in tournaments. The ink consumption of your main weapon while using Zipcaster has been decreased to about 67%, which I think is a needed buff. Its duration usually felt extremely minimal if you ever used the main weapon, encouraging players to just spam the arm constantly since it gives armor and deals damage to players anyway. With your main weapon not running down the special gauge as much, it opens up the option to actually fight with the special even more, so hopefully we can see that done in the future. Octobrush and Splatoon Stamper are the only weapons with Zipcaster that have gotten a handful of notable tournament results, and the only high-level competitive players I'm aware of actively pushing the special are Red Shell from Tempest, Pro Chara from Last Resort, and Issa, who's debatably the best Octobrush in the western scene right now. It's now starting to get more attention, and hopefully this buff will actually help with that, as well as the release of Slosher Deco, which I'm personally really eager to try, despite also having Angle Shooter, which got a buff to increase the velocity and range. This buff is pretty weak, and Special Power-Up already had little to zero impact on increasing its range, so I guess that's something, and also if you have the option to combo with Slosher Deco, it'll be a little bit faster, but I don't think it's enough to have it compete with other utility subs this game already has. On the bright side, at the very least, we know the devs are looking at Angle Shooter, so there's hope for a better buff to it in the future, but in my opinion, it still needs some sort of aspect in terms of paint or damage to be able to compete with other subs that do its job so much better. Inkvac and Reef Slider receive damage buffs where both will deal 220 damage, and for Inkvac this is only referring to its return shot, so the explosion will deal even more damage to anything it hits. They mention it's mainly to combat things that have HP, so while these buffs clearly aren't game breaking, these are specials that can be used to shred HP specials, which are clearly dominating the meta right now, so chances are the devs are at the very least aware of this. When it comes to special changes, nothing's really too impactful. Aerospray, MG, and Jet Squelcher aren't often used competitively, Tacticooler isn't good enough in this current meta for NZAP to be used, H3 Nozzlenose is just outclassed by Zap, and Splattershot Pro is still a mediocre main weapon that'll still be outclassed by Splash. E-Leader got a little jab since missile spam was nerfed, and missiles has been the one thing recently preventing teams from using it in tournaments, so I think that makes it a little bit fair. Initially, I did think the E-Leader nerf was a little unnecessary, but now I think it's probably not the end of the world, and I'd like to see how this plays out, especially if they aren't making any changes to the maps anytime soon, where E-Leader is insanely good. Everything regarding X-Rank and changes to the ranking system I'm not going to cover in this video, but we'll definitely cover in the future. I want to see firsthand how these changes play out and if it's a good step in the right direction as a whole, and I'm just praying that matchmaking actually exists in X-Rank now, so we'll just have to see. So to wrap this up, my overall thoughts regarding this patch are mostly positive, except for one major thing being Splash and Crab Tank, and I do agree something should have been done to either of them. This is without a doubt the best weapon in the game right now, and not a single thing about its kit was even sneezed on, which does not make any sense. But when you look at everything else, it's clear the developers want to make it aware that they know what's good and what's bad in this game without overly nerfing or buffing anything, and I think that's okay. Competitively at higher levels, HP specials and missiles have consistently shown more popularity than any other special in this game, so Missile and Booyah got a slap on the wrist, while things that can actually shred these specials, including Crab Tank, in some situations got buffed. Stringer and Wiper have shown much less use compared to other backlines and Stamper, so let's give them more mobility and special output to rank them up a little bit closer. Angle Shooter is the worst sub in the game, so we'll give it two tiny buffs that aren't extremely game changing for it. At the very least, they see what's good and what's bad and are being careful about it, and I think that's much more healthy than completely killing something like Crab Tank or not even being aware about how the meta is in the first place. And apparently we're getting another patch halfway through the season, so hopefully things that honestly should have been touched on, like making Brellas more viable or making Crab Tank less viable, will be by that time. But those are just my thoughts, so let me know what you guys think about this patch in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in another video. Peace.